Hi, I'm Jenna Burgess. I play Team Melissa on season 2 of Yellowjackets, and this is Pop Culture with Pat. Buzz, buzz.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So I am so excited today to be joined by today's guest. I'm talking to Jenna Burgess, talking about all things Yellowjackets. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Jenna.
Thanks for having me. I'm stoked.
Yeah, so before we get into all things Yellowjackets, and there will be some slight spoilers if you guys haven't seen the first two episodes, but before we go into that, I just want to ask you a little bit about kind of how you got into acting in the first place and just like the inspiration behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for me, I've always been an actor just because from the get-go in elementary school, I was doing school plays, musicals, community theater, that sort of thing. And like as soon as I could verbally tell my parents I want to be in acting classes, I was in acting classes. And then throughout high school, I got an agent and got into the industry, and then kind of just now I'm here.
Off and running, and yeah, now you're in Yellowjackets. So now,
Yeah.
had you watched season one prior to getting the role for this season, or was this kind of like a brand new world for you coming into the show?
So I did my audition so far in advance of actually getting the part. Um, but I remember I did an episode of The Night Agent, which just
Yep.
came out as well, with Sarah, who plays Callie. And I remember being in like the holding tent where all the cast chairs are, and I was reading my book, but I could hear her having a conversation with someone else about Yellowjackets. And she was like, yeah, I got a call the night before, and then I was on this show and it was crazy. And I was like, oh, damn. Like, I kind of wish that happened to me, like call the night before. And then fast forward to September, I get a call and they're like, yeah, you're on Yellowjackets.
So it was a little bit of a wait, but
Yeah. Yeah. And you start tomorrow. But I had auditioned, I think it was the end of July, early August.
okay.
And I specifically remember not feeling very well, like I was unwell. And so in preparation, I watched the pilot and I was like, oh, this is really good. So I watched like the first 3 episodes, did my audition, didn't feel well when I did the audition, and kind of just woke up. Did it with a neighbor, and it was a whole ordeal. But then ended up finishing the series, which I don't always do because I think there's like an actor thing where you get a little bitter and you're like, well, I didn't get the part.
Yeah.
So now I don't want to watch it. But it was so good, I couldn't help myself. I was like, asked my roommate, I was there every day, just like binge watching Yellowjackets. And at that point, weeks had gone by and I was like, well, I didn't get it. To the point where I then auditioned for another role, which you saw in episode 2 with Callie's friend Alana. So I read for that. And then when I got the call, that's the role I thought I had booked.
Oh, okay. So that's
So
cool. Yeah. I feel like that always it happens not all the time, but it happens a lot where like you go for one
yeah,
initial role, but then you can possibly end up getting, another role like in
whatever. Yeah, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, really. So
yeah, and you're just like, hey, I just want to be a part of this project. So I mean, you're just excited to join like the series like in the first place. Now,
yeah.
once you were cast, what kind of things did you do anything like special to prepare playing this character?
Well, it was such a quick turnaround. I freaked out, and then I did have to go back and I did watch the series again a little bit more intimately to try to understand that group dynamic now that I was going to be putting myself into it as a character. So watching that was really important. I read up about like what happened in the Andes and was like trying to understand the inspiration and going back on like my Lord of the Flies memory from high school and sort of. So, but I
Yeah.
really was kind of just thrust into that world really quickly. It wasn't until like I think my first day was like a Thursday, Friday, and it wasn't until that Saturday that I was like sitting at home. I was like, okay, what am I gonna do?
Yeah, no, it's kind of hard when you have like a quick turnaround like that to kind of I guess like to dig into things. Now,
Yeah.
so you joined season two, the casting crew, they, already been together for a little bit now. They've done like the full season. What was it just like, getting to know and meet everyone for the first time? And just like from seeing the photos and stuff that you guys have been posting, I mean, it seems like it's a really great cast and crew to work with
Yeah.
all the behind the scenes stuff.
It's so lucky, especially because it's such a large group that for me, I was worried about the dynamic coming in because I've been on soccer teams. I've spent my whole youth. I'm still on a soccer team. So I know like you never really know what like dynamic when you come into a large group of people. And it was a lot of them were young women my age. And so you just don't know like who's friends and who's enemies, but everyone's friends, everyone gets along. And so it couldn't have been a better experience. I remember the night before I was just freaking out. And then I get a text from Sarah because I'd run into her at fitting and she was like, you got it. You're gonna, everyone's so nice. You're gonna have such a good time. And then
That's
I could
nice.
go to bed and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm
so
good.
it's kind of nice too that you had like that connection. And then when I was talking to like Nia, I think she had mentioned too that you guys kind of had, you had like the main cast, but then you had like some of these new characters that were coming in too. So it was almost nice that you had like that group of new characters. So it wasn't just like you were just this one brand new character coming in by yourself. You had like your
Yeah.
kind of join
Oh
the
my God.
cast
It
as
was
well.
such, I think Nia was the first person I actually met because at the first day, I just spent all day in my trailer. Because you're just, it's a new job and you're nervous and I didn't want to go out. And so, but at that point I was in wardrobe. So I remember going out for lunch and going to the catering trucks and I see all these kind of girls and a few guys and live up here and everyone's just like in shambles. Like everyone's in costume. So I'm like, oh, okay, like these are my people. And so I remember going up to Nia and being like, hi. And she was like, oh, I'm new too. And then knew how I was new. Maya, who was playing my friend, she had been there the year prior, but she was so sweet. And
Yeah, so it's nice they had that group to just to kind of make it like that transition, I feel like a little bit easier
yeah,
for you.
yeah.
Now, so we just had episode 2, air, and I have to ask you about the feast scene, of course. So,
Ah,
what was your reaction when you first found out about the scene? And can you just break down a little bit of like what went into filming that whole thing?
well, because of how quick I got on this show, I had the script sent to me. And so I was like, okay, I'll deal with one right now and film one. But it wasn't until we were like filming one that everyone was like, oh, have you read two? And I was like, no. Like, and so I went home that night and I read two and I was like, oh my God. But I really didn't think much of it. And to be honest, a few of us were hanging out the night before we were doing the corpse scene. I mean, there's two different, there was the feast, the medieval feast, and then there was the what was actually going on. Yeah,
Yeah,
the bonfire
of Jackie.
barbecue scene. Yeah. So the night before we were actually eating her, we were hanging out and we were kind of like, yeah, it's gonna be fun, so exciting. And then we got there and I wasn't expecting the like cadaver fake body to look so real. Like they did such an amazing job. It's unreal. And like on top of everything, the way it smelt is exactly how you would expect that to smell.
Oh
Um,
no.
because they knew we were going to be eating it. So they put like pockets in her that they're like, okay, you'll peel this off. This is just like, I think it was like soybean paper or something, like rice paper. Um, they're like, oh yeah, and we've smoked it in paprika and here's some jackfruit. And so it was such a weird mix of scents and flavors that it really did. Um, as soon as I remember doing the blocking and I was looking at it and I was smelling it and I was like, oh my God, like I'm so naive. I'm so naive. Um, and then we just had to do it.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you. So I mean, that's good that you like brought it up. I was curious like what you guys actually were eating or like pretending to eat when you were doing it because it's always interesting to hear like what it actually was versus like obviously being like a person. But
Yeah. So it was soybean paper and jackfruit. And it was disgusting. I don't think I can ever eat jackfruit again in my life, but they made these like chips. So we could get used to the taste
yeah,
before we actually get in on the body because we're quite literally feasting from a corpse, which is an
it's enough there.
image itself. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so it's really hard to like trick your brain into being like, no, it's fake because what you're smelling, what you're seeing, it's like real. So I remember lots of people, I'm watching like all the cast members like eat the chips. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. I couldn't even like stomach it. for some reason, just I had a hard time, but that was just, I know some people didn't. So
Totally fine. Yeah. It's like,
yeah, I think it really depends on the person.
yeah, no, I mean, I could totally understand like seeing, I mean, just seeing the photos, like obviously it wasn't there in person, but seeing the photos that some of you guys posted, or I think even just like the Yellow Jackets account of the actual like corpse and stuff, I was like, man, the special effects, makeup and stuff, the work that gets done on the show is just like insane and like how realistic that thing looks. So I feel like, it works because it makes it easier, a lot easier for you guys filming this just where it's like you're acting, but it doesn't take as much because you have this like burned up corpse right in front of you.
Yeah, it's yeah, for me it was the way it smelled. Like I could after a few takes I could deal with the taste, but
Just the smell.
leaning in and breathing it in, it was like there yeah, that
You're like,
was
I'm good.
brutal.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there's a lot more like and then like we all had a hard time like stomaching it when we're actually doing it and you just could hear so many like retching noises and gagging noises and
uh,
it doesn't like it obviously that doesn't help as well when you're
yeah,
trying to stomach it yourself and yeah.
yeah. So it definitely, it was a shocking ending. You're wondering when we were going to get to that point in the series, just because like where they hinted at it and season one and everything. So, and it was hearing from all you guys saying that this season was a lot darker. So kind of had that feeling that it was going to happen, at some point. So it was definitely an amazing scene, but I'm sure it was quite interesting to just like go through overall. Now, for you, Jenna, you're out in the wilderness as yourself, so not as like your character, with the Yellow Jackets characters. Who do you think that you would connect with most and why?
Um, I think probably Natalie or Travis because they seem very practical. Like obviously they're the hunters of the group, and um, as you can see in season two, they've started to do a map, and I have a hard time believing I wouldn't be involved in that. I definitely wouldn't be my character. You would have known me in season one. So yeah, definitely someone who thinks very practically, or even Thaisa.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I'd probably have an opinion on things, so I'd the urge to, get involved in that.
Say something now. So I we were kind of talking about it just as far as like episode two, but I definitely want to give a shout out to the costume designers, the makeup, and all that stuff because everything on the show looks fantastic. So can you just talk a little bit about working on the set like overall? I know they had like the cabin like rebuilt and everything. You guys are out there. It's the middle of winter, so what was it just like working on that set like overall?
Oh wow. I mean, it kind of became like our little home. It was like I felt like there was weeks where I was there more than I was in my own home. Um, but they did it's phenomenal. I remember walking into that like stage the very first time and there were so many like real trees and shrubbery and like it was literally like walking into Narnia through the closet.
That's
Except
awesome.
it's a very different place.
Yeah, different Narnia.
Definitely not Narnia, but it like just like the awe of walking through. I'm like, oh my God. Everyone like the art that went into this show is outstanding. Like the meticulous detail, it's phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, I didn't do season one, so I wasn't familiar with the cabin, but what I've been told is it's
Looks pretty much the same.
the exact same. And I did go there, the outdoor one, only once. But it is like exact blueprint. Like they did such a good job.
I believe Neo was saying that when you guys were filming, it wasn't actually cold. So it was like when you guys are inside,
Yeah.
you had to pretend to be, like you're freezing, but meanwhile you have these jackets on and you're actually pretty hot inside with all the bodies and everything, I imagine.
Yeah, and on top of that, we're wearing like layers and layers of clothing because obviously these girls did not pack for winter, so they're putting on everything they own and what other people own. Like we're swapping clothes, we're digging through suitcases. So very quickly I found out that I had a few sweaters that you probably don't even see because I wear this jean jacket all the time, but it's under there and it is a thick sweater. And so I ended up getting the sleeves cut off. But
That was
yeah.
probably a good idea just to let yourself cool down a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, you're still dealing with like pretending that you're not in room temperature, so sometimes the heat is a really good substitute for that as an actor
Yeah.
because you still have this kind of outside force affecting how you feel. It's just not cold.
Yeah, yeah. I'd say, although I think I agreed with like Nia that I'd probably rather be on like a set rather than being out like in Arctic temperatures filming the scenes. I'd probably rather pretend to be cold than actually being cold. I think like overall.
Yeah. I mean, it took some like sometimes you'd hear like, oh, and by the way, you're cold, and you're like, oh yeah, you're cold.
Yeah,
But
gotta pretend. So after working on the show now for this season, if this group of people got stranded out in the wilderness, who from the cast do you think would be best equipped to handle that?
oh, um, gosh, not me. Definitely not me. Yeah. Um, I'm definitely like a technology person, and I get cranky if I don't eat. So, um, oh, it's a really good.
And it doesn't have to be one. If you had like a couple of people on mind too, you could like name a couple. It doesn't have to be just like one.
Yeah, I feel like Jasmine would have a really good attitude going into it, but maybe I'm just putting that out there.
I think Jasmine,
Courtney too, maybe Courtney. Yeah.
Courtney, and Jasmine.
Yeah. I feel like, or maybe just because I in Yellowjackets world, they're kind of like our little leaders.
Yeah,
So, but
that's
uh
fair enough. Yeah, we can go with those two.
yeah.
Now, tell us a little bit more about your character, like what you're able to, I guess, like at least Melissa, what were you able to relate to the most and what was her life like? I don't know if you got a chance. Did you come up with a backstory at all for your character, or did the writers kind of give you a background for her, or
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's this like need as an actor right off the bat to like have every single question answered about your character. And like acting class will do that to you. You're like, yes, this is my favorite color. But there was a lot. And I think when I first got into it, I was like, I need to know everything about her. But then I realized I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to go too far in one direction because in TV land, you get scripts every couple of weeks. And if they take it in a different direction, then all the work I've put in, I have to then reroute myself. So I was very careful. And I think she's a character that I got to learn as I was doing. And as the episodes go on, you get to see more of her. And they introduce us right off the bat in episode one to be like, they're here. And then two, and then you start to see, okay, they've pulled them back a little bit, but then you will see more of us as um, the season goes on. Uh, yeah, and that was kind of for me. I was always thinking like, what position would she play in soccer? Because I'm a soccer girl, so I'm like, okay, like I identify for Jenna's a striker, but Melissa, I'm like, Melissa's a midfielder. So
let's say I used
yeah,
to play soccer when I was it's been a long time since I have, but I used to play soccer like when I was a kid. So it's cool that you had that like personal connection with the character where you're both, soccer players at least.
yeah, and I think just for me, I just tried to play with body language a lot too. Like at the top, I tried to like she obviously wasn't involved as much in season one, and you don't know as much about her. So
Yeah.
um, I'm like, okay, well, there's probably some reservation there. So she has been hanging back a bit. You don't know how helpful she's been up until that point. So I'm like, okay, well, she's tense, she's reserved. This is a traumatic event. And then as I got more content and more things to do with her, then I was like, okay, I'm going to loosen up a bit and loosen up. And like, she has no choice but to be part of the group eventually
Mhm.
because it's do or die. So
Yeah, just with everything that's going on. Yeah.
yeah.
And I talked to Nia, about this too. I can't tell you guys how much I love the video that you guys did for Florence and the Machine, just that girl, the lip syncing video that came out. It looked like you guys just had so much fun doing it, especially as the song's going on and you guys are just kind of like bouncing all over the place and everything. So, what was it like filming, just that video?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I'm such a big fan of Florence and the Machine, and no doubt Gwen Stefani. Like, it was just cool to start with. And um, we filmed it during a day like we were filming. So it was like in between takes or setups or anything that small groups of people would go over and they'd film that. Um, but when you're, but we're still working that day. So I was still in like work mode. And it wasn't until like a month later that I was hanging out with a few of the cast members. I was like, you guys remember when we did that? Like, I think that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So
So
did you not see it? Like, did you not see any of the footage or anything until it like actually came out?
yeah, until it dropped a couple weeks ago that morning, I watched it and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, cool. And then I got texts from friends. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. And then I had to go for a walk around the neighborhood to like digest that information. And
Yeah, it's
yeah,
cool.
but it is so cool. It's yeah, an honor. I love
Something
Florida.
that
Yeah.
something that you kind of forgot about, but then get to see it like later on. But yeah, no, it came out. I mean, I think just like yeah, all of your guys like energy, everyone who was in that video, just you guys bouncing around and the way that you can tell that you were like really into the song. So I think that's what made the video even better. So I was just like, yeah, curious about your experience with that. And speaking of music from the 90s, is there a song that you would love to see make an appearance on the show? And what kind of artist or songs do you think that your character likes to
Mm.
listen to or like to listen to before, getting stranded here?
Um, yeah, it's crazy you say that because I'm a huge Radiohead fan, like massive Radiohead fan. I've seen them in Seattle, I've seen them in Paris. Like I've gone to go see them. And so I had not seen the end of episode 2. So when Climbing Up the Walls came out, I was like, I was so jazzed that that sequence got to be to that song because that's my favorite band. So um, I think OK Computer is like one of the best albums ever. I always kind of thought, I mean, I did make myself a little playlist to drive to and from set with, and a lot of it was 90s music, and a lot of it was music that I listened to when I was 16, to kind of bridge that because I was not 16 in the 90s.
Yep.
But I like to think that Melissa was also an Oasis fan. I know that they gave like there was the girl that died in season 1. They're like, yeah, she loved Oasis.
Yep.
And I don't want to take that from her, but Melissa likes Oasis too.
Yeah, that's
And
okay.
yeah, yeah, maybe like the Pixies. The
Good
Pixies.
choice.
It's cool to see the Pixies. I mean, can't. Is that late 80s or 90s? I mean, I think it goes into the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
okay. So
yeah, that would be cool.
I know for me, I was talking to Nia, my first or my was that episode 1, episode 2? Yeah, pretty sure it was episode 1. If I get this wrong, I apologize, guys. But when Papa Roach came up and adult Jeff, was jamming to it in the car when he was kind of having his freak out moment, I definitely listened to Papa Roach a lot when I was like a kid in like in the 90s, which probably shouldn't have been listening to at the time. But when that song came on, I was just like, what? So yeah, there's like the whole soundtrack for the show is just amazing with all kinds of different
Yeah,
artists.
they kill it every time. I have no doubt that they're just gonna consistently put bangers in the show. So,
Yeah,
and that's what we can
I got the
trust.
whole playlist on my Spotify, so I got
Oh,
that.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just yeah, great, great mix of songs to listen to. Now, so I love that Yellow Jackets does a really good job of, kind of walking the line of both, is this supernatural or, is this kind of all in their heads? Is this just part of like the trauma? So for you personally, do you believe in the supernatural at all?
I I don't I think there's a word for it, but I believe in like tangible evidence, but I believe that's what's given to us, and there's obviously stuff we don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I have thought there was a ghost in my house at one point in my life. Like I am not yeah.
Yeah, no.
Stuff that's a hard question to answer, Pat. Do
So
I yeah, I think in a way that I can't definitively tell you, therefore I can't definitively believe
yeah,
for
yes or
myself.
no.
But I'm open to the idea of there being a lot to this world that we just don't understand because we as humans need that tangible, hard evidence,
Hmm.
and that's
Yeah.
ingrained into us. And to a certain extent, I am that way, but I'm also open to the other
Yeah,
side
no.
of things.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
completely acceptable. I was just telling the story before that for me, so I do believe because like when I was freshman year, like high school, we went to this place that it was like a old World War II bunker or something like that. And we went to go like check it out. And we got there. We had brought fresh batteries with our flashlights and everything. So the bunker is completely underground. You can't see anything without like a flashlight. So we got inside, go into one of the rooms, And when we got in this one room, all of our flashlights just went out at the same time, and we couldn't get them to come back on for probably like a good like minute. And then they all just popped back on at the same time. And I remember being there like, okay, I think it's time to leave here and like go do something else. So I definitely think I think there's like something out there. So that
Yeah.
was like probably like my personal experience, but I completely respect like having that where it's like you're open to it, but not necessarily haven't like experienced anything particular like for yourself up to this point. It sounds like.
Yeah. It's tough because I will be the first one to call a friend and be like, dude, there's a ghost in my house right now. Like, I swear to God. But at the same time, I can rationalize my way out of it at the same time. So
Yeah.
I'm all over the place. It depends
Now,
on the day.
without going into spoilers, do you have a favorite overall episode, or even if it's not just like the overall episode, but a particular moment from an episode that you can't wait for fans to see for the rest of the season?
Ooh, I'm really excited for episode 8. I
That's
think there's a
actually the
lot of
one
fun.
that's the one that Nia
Is that
said as
what
well.
you said? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. It was really fun to film that one. Um, and yeah, that and that and 6, and I'm not in 6 a lot, but it was just an amazing episode to be a part of and witness and do that. So one of the two. I mean,
Those two.
it's tough to say because this show's so chaotic, and I was about to say
Oh,
wild. No pun intended of being it's a wild ride for a show. So I'm like, every episode, like you're in for something. So you
oh,
just never know
definitely.
what's gonna happen. So it's so fun. But yeah, let's go with 8 for now. And who knows, maybe my
Okay.
answer will change as I watch it with all of you guys.
Go along. Yeah, no,
Remembering
so
stuff too.
I can't wait for the rest each of the episodes, but I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to 8 now. Now that two of you guys have mentioned that that's definitely the one. It sounds like that you're really excited for fans to see. Again, just general thoughts without going into any spoilers. Obviously, what can fans look forward to for the rest of season 2 for Yellow Jackets? And is there anything else that you would like to say to the fans? And just like where can they keep up to date with your projects?
Yeah, I mean, it's a wild ride of a season. It is as I don't have I've kind of struggled with watching my work back throughout my whole career, but this is a show that I'm like, I have to watch the second it drops because I'm in it too. I want to know what happens. I don't always read the other timeline in the scripts for that purpose.
Yeah.
So it's you're in for a ride, and it's gonna be fun and enjoy each and every moment. And um it's crazy to hop on a project that already has such a intense and like passionate fan base, and everyone's just been so kind and supportive and funny. Like the memes are like Twitter off the charts. Like we're poking in, we're looking. You guys are so creative and funny and passionate, and it does not go unnoticed. And um it's scary for me as a human to hop on a project that already has such a big fan base around it, but it's been a good experience so far, and I just expect nothing but that. So thank you, everyone. It's amazing. And yeah, I'm on Instagram. That's about it. But and TikTok too. So I think my handle is the same on both. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll be able to follow me on TikTok.
Anything on TikTok?
So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I will make sure to put both of those down in the description for the video too, so that way people can give you a follow. And again, just thank you so much, Jenna, for taking time out of your schedule, coming on here, talking all things just like your career and talking about Yellow Jackets in general. It's been a blast, having you on, and you're welcome back anytime in the future.
Oh, thank you. Anytime, Pat. This is awesome. Hi, I'm Jenna Burgess. I play Team Melissa on season 2 of Yellow Jackets, and this is Pop Culture with Pat. Buzz, buzz.